Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into high-resolution sculpting, high-res modeling, and normal mapping, which is one of the main core elements of this training product. Very important. Now, the goal with high-resolution sculpting is pretty simple. We want to sculpt the high-resolution details for baking onto a low-resolution in-game asset later on. Sounds simple enough. Now, high-res modeling. This isn't a necessity. It's not really a requirement. However, this is what I recommend, using subdivision surfaces to get your high-res modeling done. Okay? You can use sub-Ds to model high-res objects in any 3D package that supports them. You don't necessarily need to use a sculpting program like Mudbox or ZBrush or anything like that. It's not a requirement. You can still make a game without that stuff. However, I don't recommend it. Sub-Ds are supported in most major 3D packages nowadays, so 3ds Max, Maya, Softimage, and others out there. You don't necessarily have to incorporate ZBrush into your workflow. Now, pre-sculpting. Okay, you want to make sure you use a program like ZBrush. Not a requirement, like I said before, but with the advances of AAA game development workflow in today's industry, it might as well be a requirement. Okay, so you don't necessarily need it. Preparation for sculpting, very important. You want to make sure you create a base mesh in your 3D package. So you need to create a base mesh in your 3D package, and then we can take that into something like ZBrush and start sculpting on it. And I recommend, again, using sub-Ds. You're going to find that that's probably going to be the best way to go. Now, you want to stick to quad topology. Now, it's not necessary, but it subdivides better in ZBrush. Okay, ZBrush hates n-gons. Okay. It loves quads. Quads are four-sided polygons, and you could import an object with triangles. That's going to cause some artifacting, and it's not going to subdivide very well. But it's not going to make ZBrush crash. It's not going to make your system catch on fire or anything like that. Now, you also want to make sure you create a good UV layout in your 3D package first before going to ZBrush. And you also, this is my recommendation, send it into ZBrush without overlapping UVs. Okay, more than likely, if you're a game developer and you're using ZBrush in your workflow to make high-res sculpts, it's because you want to normal map them onto the low-res objects. And normal maps require UVs. Okay, you have to have a UV layout on your low-res object in order to be able to normal map properly. Now, technically, you could bring in an object with overlapping UVs into ZBrush. It's not going to make ZBrush crash or anything like that. However, when you start normal mapping onto an object that has overlapping UVs, you will more often than not run into technical issues, artifacting, overlapping issues, and things like that. Like I said, you don't have to incorporate sculpting into your pipeline or your workflow, but there are some benefits to take into account with sculpting. Normal maps, of course, is the biggest one. High-resolution details can be baked onto low-resolution models for high realism and quality. This is the reason that characters look so good in games like Gears of War and Call of Duty and all these other games. It's the sculpting and normal maps that really make those characters pop and look AAA quality. Okay? Low-res objects can be made to look like high-res sculpts without the dense topology of the sculpted objects. Professional workflow is the other benefit to it. I mean, AAA studios use high-res sculpting in their pipeline every day. So you should too. It's just as simple as that. Okay? It's a standard practice in the industry. And if you really want to compete with AAA games, and that's the type of quality that you're shooting for, this is what consumers are going to expect. So that's going to do it for this kind of overview of sculpting. I'm going to end this here, and in the next video we're going to go ahead and start putting some of these ideas and theories to use and start getting our hands dirty with high-res modeling and incorporating ZBrush into the pipeline.